Hi, this is Anshu Sharma. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Skyflow. I'm excited here to be talking to our old friend and customer, Eric, who's visiting us here in Palo Alto at our headquarters.
Thanks for that. I'm very excited to be here.
Can you tell us what happened before you met us? Maybe take us back 10, 15, 20 years?
Sure, yeah. So I worked with a vaultless solution, a competitor, actually, ironically, of Skyflow's way back in the day. And it was a hard journey. It was painful. I remember the first time we thought we were ready to roll it out as part of one of our core data platforms. But then we realized, given the nature of the solution and how it integrated with our applications, that all the downstream consumers of the data platform were all about to get broke. And so we had to kind of take that step back, reevaluate how to handle the entire ecosystem. What we thought was going to just be 2 to 3 years to implement it turned into nearly a decade.
Supposed to take you 2-3 years to implement this last generation technology, and it took you a decade nearly and still failed. How long did it take you to implement Skyflow?
We implemented that tokenization capability at the perimeter, at the ingress point, into the application in basically 2 sprints in about 5 weeks. We turned it on, reran those test cases, pushed everything through the monitoring, and it all just worked.
That's my favorite statement when somebody says, Skyflow just works.
Yeah. Having the opportunity to implement it twice, gave me the opportunity to live and learn. But in both cases, we did that tokenization at the boundaries, at the ingress, at the egress, so that by the time it got into the internals of system execution, everybody was just dealing with tokenization, with the tokens itself.
You've spoken about Skyflow being the foundational layer of the privacy architecture. Tell us more about what that means to you as an architect and what that enables for you.
Sure. I've always found of saying that as applications and platforms go to production, there's always 2 things that tend to be forgotten until that 13th hour. Security and to be able to do production support. And data protection is it's such a big deal today, especially as organizations look to go to the cloud. Skyflow, to me, is not just about a tool, it's a catalyst for that change and that ability to adopt the cloud. Without a lot of those hesitations. We're able to build it in as part of a foundational construct so that the developers, they don't have to worry about it. Most of the developers don't even realize tokenization is happening because it is part of that foundation.
Can you share an example about how Skyflow has made a tangible difference in your ecosystem and inside the architecture?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a major transformational effort underway. So this was not a new company or a new startup existing. That had a transformational effort. And, introducing Skyflow and tokenization into the overall process, there was a lot of concerns like, are we going to delay the project? How much are we going to be overcomplicating things? But the reality is we were able to do that work in parallel as make it part of the foundation. With that API first, we were able to plug that in such a way that it was that seamless. But to me, where it really became more powerful, if you will, is because it was part of the foundation, because we made it a core construct, it allowed us to open ourselves up for some other things. When we started this journey, generative AI was something you read in a book, but then real quickly, right, with ChatGPT and everything that that created that tsunami, now suddenly everyone's working with LLMs. Well, in our case, it was a risk-free opportunity for us because tokenization was part of that core effort. We were able to do some POCs with LLMs without any fear about our sensitive PII data getting available in the wrong places.
So that foundational layer enabled you to plan, expedite, and deliver future-looking work with minimal changes and security at the base.
Yeah, absolutely. And just having data protection as a core foundation, you didn't have to worry about the future quite so much because it's an innate part of what you're delivering. It's not something you need to think about. It's not something you need to review and validate. It's there, and makes for those other opportunities much easier to pursue.
One of the things that has really shot up in the public I is these modern cybersecurity companies, right? We just heard that Wiz was almost acquired for $22 billion. They're in the CSPM category. There are lots of companies that are in the DSPM category. There's even now a category called AI, posture management.
Yeah.
When you look at these posture management tooling and you compare that to the approach we've taken, how do you think you compare the two, and how do they work together?
The reality is a lot of these are the traditional tools with maybe a new skin on top, or maybe a focus on different types of data. But at the end of the day, it's still the same type of awareness, alerting, events, you have a problem type of construct, And so the data protection is really the key aspect of securing your data, securing your environment. And so that is where Skyflow fits in. And when I look at those architectural constructs, that's great. I have something out there telling me I have a problem, but Skyflow allows me to solve the problem. Or as a former boss of mine like to say, I'm no longer admiring it, I'm doing something about it with Skyflow.
So talk to me a little bit about why do people need to worry about data security, privacy before they build and deploy Gen AI applications?
Yeah, and I won't pretend to be an expert in generative AI. I think I know enough to be dangerous about it. As part of that journey around protecting the data, protecting the cloud, protecting against AI, I'm a big fan of analogies, right? And you look at how Okta has really revolutionized and changed identity and access management. HashiCorp and what even the other cloud providers have done around secrets management, they've acted themselves as enablers and catalysts. And I think Skyflow really is at that level when you look at kind of peers. It's not necessarily about competitors, it's about peers and who's been the true catalyst or enabler of cloud adoption. And I think Skyflow and its vaulted-based token solution is in a lot of ways just as important as how I do my secrets, how I do my access management, because it is about, those layers.
How has your experience of the last 3 years with Skyflow in production been?
I don't know how to word this other than say I tried to break it several times, and I broke my side far more than I broke Skyflow. And I know I said this before, but I think it is an outcome of being API first. I'll stay away from the cool terms like microservices. But the reality is those architectures are innately built to scale. It really becomes a conversation of how much are you willing to let it scale, whether it can truly scale.
As a two-time buyer of Skyflow, what advice would you have to somebody who's looking at Skyflow for the first time in your shoes in the chief architecture space?
When undertaking anything new, I'm always a fan of being clear of what problems you're trying to solve. Given that Skyflow is, I like to say born of the cloud, because I really do think it's important to recognize that. It is the art of the possible. So being clear on what problems you're trying to solve and being open to maybe different solution patterns than what you've used in the past. The public cloud does require a bit of a paradigm shift in how you think through solving your problems. I like to use the term blast radius when it comes to the potential of a security issue. And the reality is the cloud does increase the size of that blast radius. But that data protection layer with your critical data, it is really fundamentally important. Skyflow's open API constructs and just being born of the cloud, it's not a huge lift. It's not a scary journey. It is much simpler to be able to go down that path without those fears. Along with the native API capabilities, but having that external vault that Skyflow offers gives you a straightforward, simplistic way to accomplish that tokenization in a way that just works.